Welcome back to OinkGaming. Today I've got a very interesting little study for you that I've been conducting for the last little while and will continue to conduct. But I've had this theory. So I will admit, for a couple days I was stuck. Two things were causing it. One was a nature dragon. Luckily, last night, Perez, who I think is kind of an old timer, but went away for a little while and came back. He spent some time away, but he came back just in time to find me a nature dragon, which I was desperate for. I had like 3 quests for nature dragons. I don't know why the nature dragon is so difficult for me to find and kill, but I can find the other ones okay, but nature dragons I can't. He found me one, that got me unstuck. The second thing is I was looking at my armor, and I kept looking at my gemstones, thinking, it is clear that I can go out and get as much enchantment materials as I need. It won't be a problem. But gemstones seem to be my issue. Let's examine. Here are my tier 10 gemstones I've got at the moment. And I'm not soloing all the Seed World dungeons at tier 10 yet. I think this problem will solve itself if you become dedicated and can get into those tier 10 battles constantly on your own time as much as you want. But I'm not there. So I want to build perfect sets. I want to build, Ingram's gloves, crit, max crit, gemstone, right attuned if I'm trying to build a crit build, right? I'm trying to build the perfect set, but I'm well far away from that. So I'm really trying to play the game as it comes to me. So here we go. Here we've got a tier 10 Onyx. Great. I would love a tier 10 Onyx. Tier 10 Onyx in anything but nature. Nature tuned. Emeralds were a favorite of mine for a little while, but initiative, you can overkill on initiative. I haven't figured a way to really overclock an initiative, so they're kind of meh to me at the moment. Diamond, I only have one tier 10 ice shield. I haven't used it in a build yet. I experimented with it when I was fighting Walrus. You all saw that. I don't really use that piece of equipment, and I certainly wouldn't use block shield or any shield against crushing damage, which is nature. Right? Boris and Allura are nature. And yet, here is the tier 10 diamond. I don't use shields in the water world, right? And I certainly wouldn't be putting durability on stuff that I don't use. Opal is useful. I like the dodge chance, but Void set, Void, the 95% armor pretty much does the trick. So between attunement, 95% armor, we're pretty good on defense there and focus on the offense. So why is it that all the gemstones that are tier 10 are darn near worthless to me? It's annoying. Two theories. Theory one was, well, you know what? You use the ones that are good. So if I go down to tier 9 gemstones, okay, you start to get a little bit more interesting smattering. And there's a bunch of these amethysts. Why? Well, I haven't built anything that demands critical damage yet. And so I've got this backlog of amethysts that aren't being used, and thus in my inventory waiting to be used because I'm not using them. Supply and demand. There's a little bit of supply, but there's no demand, and so they just keep leveling up. There's one theory. But the second theory is that gemstones seem to drop in different biomes at different rates. And this theory came to me because as I was doing biomes, it started to make sense to me that pearls would occur in water more often, and in fact, I had more water pearls than I had any other kind of pearl. That includes these steel greaves that I use for a lot of my builds right now because it has a tier 10, which gives me plus 30. Anything enchanted gives me plus 20. So these are plus 50 steel greaves. Even if the armor doesn't really help, or the water attunement doesn't help, that's a darn good pair of boots for me, even for the builds because HP always helps, right? And I can't get off of it. I can't get off it because the best pearl I've got is like a 7. So do you want to give up bloody 9 HP to put on a pair of attuned boots of any other type? Not typically, right? The margins are so small that it's like, I really don't want to have to do that. So, in that vein, I ran a test. What I did is, I'll start off with these, and this is the starting point, right? What you do when you want to put forth an hypothesis is you want to do just a little bit of research to figure out whether your hypothesis even makes sense. You can have 1,000 hypotheses, and you want to get that and cull it down to a half dozen hypotheses because that's testable. I can't test 1,000 hypotheses. I can test 6 hypotheses. So I went and did 51 squares. 51 squares. And in those 51 squares, I tracked every single one of my drops of gemstones. And I always chose if I saw the gemstone, it went in the data. So if I was in Seed World 3 for all of these tests, you always had 3 options. Occasionally 2 options would have a gemstone. I would record both of those options because they're both drops of the world. Just because I didn't choose one didn't mean it wasn't a drop. And then any of the drops that came down. So if I picked a Seed World 3 and I fought 3 bosses and 3 mobs and three of them or 2 of them dropped gemstones, I'd record them all, not just the one. So in 51 squares in the Water World 3, these are the results that I got. So I picked up 3 pearls, 3 emeralds, 0 rubies, 0 onyxes, 1 sapphire, 0 topazes, 0 amethysts, 0 opals, 0 diamonds, 4 amarines. I expected the pearl and amarine. I have a backlog of those. I seem to always be getting those gemstones in the water world. I don't understand. It's not just my usage. It's that they drop more often. That was my theory. That was one of my hypotheses, that in the water world, pearls and amarines drop more often than anything else. Well, the beginning set of data tells me that that is, in fact, worth a hypothesis. Here's what it looks like when you put it into a graph right there. Pearls, amarines, and emeralds seem to have dropped. Now, I got 0 onyx. That concerns me. Is the sample size enough until I gather every gemstone? Because I know that onyx does in fact drop in Water World 3. So 51 squares wasn't in fact the right denominator. It needs to be a larger sample size. Number 2, oftentimes went into squares and there were no mobs to fight. That counted as my 51. It wasn't 51 mobs, it was 51 squares. A better control would have been 51 mobs, right, than 51 squares. So these are improvements to the test I can make, and by doing this precursor test, I can actually set up the test correctly when I want to go do it correctly. In the fire world, I expected to see lots of rubies and onyxes. I seem to get a lot of that. Well, I got a couple pearls, no emeralds, 4 rubies. That's what I expected to see, but only 1 onyx. Surprised by that, right? 3 sapphires, 0 topazes, 1 amethyst, 2 amarines. So the theory continues to be reinforced that it's possible that this is worth investigating. This continued. These are the results of each of the 3 biomes by those first 51 squares and what they in fact dropped. And there were things I expected. Opals and void. I seem to always get opals and void. You can see in my tier 10, I've got a void tier 10 opal. I'm wearing a tier 9 opal on my void gloves. I have a backlog of void opals. Well, my early test indicated there may be something to that. So, the first thing this test does is it says, okay, the theory is worth investigating. Do gemstones drop in different rates from different biomes? That's all we're testing. What we're not testing for is the rate at which they drop. That's a different test. It's a more thorough test. It would take a lot more data. So this credence led me to my second data set, which is what I'm doing now. And I've begun to track every gemstone by biome. It's only 2 variables, biome and gemstone. It's not taking into effect tier. It's not taking into effect mob. Okay, it's not taking into effect seed world. I'm not doing own world, but I assume the biomes are probably similar by level, but I'm only doing the seed worlds. Now, if they're mob specific or if they're biome specific, I should see a deviation. The reason for that is mobs only occur in one biome. And so both of those things, if they exist, one or the other, would show up in this data set over time. But I'm now tracking all of my gemstones by biome right now to see if I can move the theory a little further ahead, right? And I am seeing some things that tell me I'm not crazy. Water. If you look at the whole string now, amarines, pearls are number 1 most often dropped gemstones I've had to date. This second test I'm running, which is this one, doesn't care about mobs. This is a perpetual test, so I don't care even about how many squares or how many mobs I fought. If I want to investigate hit rate, I would need to change this test, and I would need to think more about number of mobs as a denominator, type of mob, and tier. So I would need to create a data set that's just tier, type, number, drop. Okay? And then I would need to collect hundreds, really frankly, probably thousands of data points, and then examine all of those to work backwards to get an idea of the potential hit rates within a semblance of error rate, which someday I might do, but not right now. We're going to start here and just formulate the theory a little bit that maybe, possibly, which gemstones occur in which biomes more often, and not worry so much about the rate at which they drop. But this is what I'm working on behalf of you. And as the results become more mature, I will share them with you. Cool? Cool. All right. Back to here. Here we go. I haven't obviously moved. This video is being shot right after the last video. But I also wanted to show you the water world. I don't know if I've really showed you the water world all that much on my channel, and it's kind of a big deal. I'm going to go water world. I'm going to put my water stuff together. I've got my attunement on my water set up to 34%. There's still some room for improvement. My Ragnar's torch is still ice attuned. That could be switched if I wanted to. The confining element right now is that in the water world, unlike other worlds, you get your quests from where the boss is. That's at W23. We'll mark our way down there so I can show you. This is the water world. It's beautiful. It will have a counter. It sounds like that Cortez has already figured out, what the counter is going to be. Hold on. I got to set up my spreadsheet because we're about to get a jam, and I made a promise to you on camera. What is that, Amarine? A little tough to read it. Amarine, gemstone data. Scroll down to where I'm supposed to be. See, this is what I'm doing right here. I got a little small screen. I'm in water 3, and I'm going to add, what was it? Amarine 9. Not unexpected. This is what I'm doing over here. So if I pause because I see a gemstone, that's what I'm doing in real time. Waterworld operates similar to all other worlds. There's not a town, though, at the moment. There's not a town. I did, in Discord, throw the idea out of a town called Atlantis, which makes some sense. Or if you want to jump off it, Venetia or something like that. Something to play off the Venice vibe, depending on how he wants to graphically represent it. If he wants to do a town. But this whole thing is supposed to be I think it's countered with Earth. And it sounds like Cortez has figured out what are the attunements that are going to be counter each other already. I gave him that suggestion a couple videos ago. He was like, nah, I've already figured that out. So, whatever. I mean, it's his life. Shiny Jewel. Here is going to drop Dousing. Again, the bosses of this world as Hydro, they douse. But there's no town here. You come to the dungeon to get your missions. The music here, many people think the music here is the best music. I don't know. I think it's a toss-up here. I might as well grab some missions now that I've got some open ones. There's seahorses. They drop these fins. Those are literally going to drop nothing but fins. I'll grab that. Where was that? Oh, yeah, we've added some new quests in the last couple of days that lead to new weapons, which I will show you here at the end of the video. This one's an interesting little weapon that I'll show you. Quest. Water Dragon. I don't know if I'll find one of those. Just the likelihood. Leviathans are nasty suckers. We'll get to those in the future. Dousing Jewels, I've got plenty of those. I might just do this. Where am I at? 10 of 10. Well, I just cleared one. How did I get 10 of 10? Oh, because it was a... I got you. This one kind of starts over again. Devious Intent. I've got to travel to the Spire to finish that off. So I don't have any room. The water world's at W23. And so it's a pretty easy place to figure out because when I take off my world seed, it shows me I'm right next to the town in Gwendale. Literally right next to it. So if you're ever traveling to this dungeon on the own world, you go Lumen and then bottom right corner and you can drop right into the dungeon, which actually makes visiting this town pretty easy because it has its own quests. So eventually going down to Lumen, down in Gwendale, right? Hit that town, get the quests, go to the next square, kitty corner, bottom right, seed, put the water seed on, and grab a whole nother set of quests. You can get 2 sets of quests for the price of essentially 1 journey. Let's do Hydro. And then we'll go check out the research. I got to make sure that my stance is all good. I have 0 dodge, but I'm good with that. Initiative at 45, resign at 20. These battles go at 34% now, are going swimmingly. That was too easy. I don't win them all. But I win 90%. 90% of them. I also nickel and dime it, which is kind of annoying. I don't love nickel and dime it. Ooh, this is going to be a tier 9 Hydro, so I'll probably lose just because I'm videotaping and that's how this world works. One thing you will face in the water world that is unique to the water world is something called Leviathan. There's no other mob in this game that is feared as much as the Leviathan. It hits like a ton of bricks, has a lot of HP, and especially if you're a team of 4, and then you go to a dungeon and end up with 4 Leviathans, yeah, good luck. That's going to be a lot of fun for you. It is very tough to fight multiple Leviathans. One Leviathan, a team can do all right, but it's all about how it hits. There's a tier 8 Amethyst. I'm not tracking this. I don't track dungeons, although I feel like their hit rate's probably the same, but I don't track it. But a level 8 Amethyst, which is critical damage. Yum. I'll use that eventually. There'll be some build. Here's Hydro, and you can see it's dousing damage, just like you'd expect. I'm hitting, but I'm not freezing, so this can be a little bit difficult when I'm not freezing. There's a freeze, so they don't hit on their next one. Then he dodged, so I assume it's a he. You get the Hydro's Trident as the drop from the Hydro boss. I have covered this before because I used the Hydro's Trident for a while. Hydro's Trident is kind of cool. It's two-handed, but it gives you defense, which can be really useful if you're not using a shell, or if you want to go with a very light build and you want to throw a shell with a Hydro's Trident. You can get that high 95% armor build without having to go all steel and onyx, right? And that gives you the ability to switch all those onyx slots into something else, HP or rubies or whatever, right? And dodging, you could be a high dodge and armor build at the same time, which would be a pretty cool build. That'd be a tough nut to crack. I might write that down. That sounds totally epic. A 95% armor build with high dodge sounds mean. But you can see, because this is just so systematic, I win 90 to 95% of the time against this fine fellow. And I'm going to give it tier 9 Hydro's Trident. Speaking of fresh weapons, let's go show you the newest ones that have been added to the game. These are added seemingly through quests and treasure boxes. Has been his favorite thing to do. Kim Cortez. I use his both first and last name independent of one another, just to confuse any newbies who might be here. In the research center, there are some new things that I want to show you. They're all going to be at the bottom. I'm not sure these things have really been fleshed out, or their meta has been fleshed out yet, because they're so darn new. We covered the Coral Wand. You get that from a mission. Full Moon is a two-handed. 30 damage was a little low for a two-handed. High crit chance, high crit damage, so and a -5 health. So this is a high risk, high reward two-handed weapon. Could be a lot of fun, right? Could be a lot of fun. The loss of HP is not so crazy if, in fact, you can get this thing all the way tiered up. Compare that level 30 two-handed to, let's say, the Classic Hammer, right? And the Classic Hammer gives you 30, but Armor Pen. Would I rather have Armor Pen or crit chance? It's a tough one. Two-handed axe is at 34. So, it's there, right? It's there. Something to be considered. We're always playing around with the formulas. So that's the Full Moon. Considering it, I use the Kyle's Might because they dropped and I don't have to craft them. The next thing is the Bree. The Bree is a one-handed weapon. And again, it's seemingly the one-handed weapon version of the one we just covered. If the Full Moon is 30, 10, and 30, this one is 15, 5, and 10, which is quite literally darn near half. Two-handed though, so you can wear 2 of these and change up your orb settings. And then the Eye of Apollyon. I'm going to go with that. Obviously, it's a play off Apollo. I'm not sure the backstory or the history of any of these things, but it seems it has the materials of a one-handed, has a base damage of almost a two-handed, but you're going to give up armor and you're going to give up health to yield it. And you get these things through quests. So new items being added, kind of snuck in there. Bunch of life improvements on the server this week from Kim. Love the seed change. That was, future generations will not know how annoying it was to, flip between your loadouts, because flipping between loadouts now is much, much nicer given the fact that the seed is unaffected by that. New weapons are trickling in, which means new metas are trickling in. So all good stuff to report this week on World of Seed. All right, that's it. Talk to you later. Appreciate you coming by, and I will keep you updated as my Gemstone database grows as to if there's any credence behind gemstones being uniquely dropped in different biomes. All right? All right, talk to you later.